Feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honoring, all we are, earth to star. Most often on our show, we like to talk about embodying ourselves in this earth walk, walking in beauty, being in our bodies in the best way we know how. This time, however, we wish to talk about out-of-body experiences. Do you have an out-of-body experience that you can recall in this moment?
Yeah. For me, the most recent out-of-body experience that I can remember is being in a place of healing, coming out of a medical procedure, and knowing that it's time to heal and intentionally going into a state of meditation and being able to see myself from a bird's eye view with a level of clarity that was actually surprising to myself. But the purpose of this, it really wasn't a purpose. It was just kind of in flow with the situation and just where my focus was. And my focus was around healing energetic adhesions in my field from a medical procedure I had just had. So I was just really asking for guidance and working with some of my guidance team. And I wound up in a place of high meditation, visualizing my body from a higher level of perspective.
Did you have any insights as you saw yourself in body from a different point of view?
I think the biggest thing was first the gratitude from being able to see from that point of view. It was possible for me to view from this and to be the sacred observer in this situation. It was a confirmation of how many other situations in body or out of body where we can take that role of the observer and really be able to stand outside the current experience and to be able to navigate the situation from that sacred space. So I was able to deal with some fears and some really deep situations from a really calm space, from a really clear-headed space, from a space where I felt really divinely guided and divinely protected. It was a space of less emotion and more of like an observation of the emotion and an awareness of the emotion instead of actually experiencing it on such a level that was actually going to cloud any kind of cognitive thinking or any kind of problem solving or any kind of enlightened processing. When we're overcome by those heavy emotions and we're in the moment of experiencing that, I do feel the situation can be like really oversaturated by so much. Having this out of body experience, I was able to minimize the experience and lean into the awareness and witnessing.
So would you say you were able to witness the suffering that's caused by the story that you were potentially suffering from in that life situation, but from a higher perspective view, you were detached from the suffering at all, detached from the story entirely, detached from the illusion of suffering, and you were able to see from a higher perspective or from an outside perspective that you're safe and held and you're okay. Does that summarize
absolutely.
it?
I feel like the word suffering is probably an accurate explanation of what I was experiencing, but I don't know that in the moment I felt it to be that intense, but just the situation in general.
But from the higher perspective or the outsider's perspective, there was no suffering whatsoever, right?
And I would even say just no challenges. It seemed pretty docile, but yeah.
I think you just illustrated and summarized the point that I was hoping to get to at this topic of conversation. Why do we seek an out-of-body experience? What is the gift in that?
Yeah.
What are the many gifts in seeing from an outside or above, even below perspective of our story that we're potentially suffering by? Because in any moment, walking on earth, we could have a feeling of being stuck in the mud or restricted in some way or any flavor of suffering. But from a bird's eye view, or even from below view, I venture to say, we can see that we as a spirit are safe and sound. We as a spirit are perfect and whole, exactly as we are in any present moment. So even in our life situation, if we appear to be suffering in some way, we can seek out a higher viewpoint to take good care of ourselves and come back into our embodied state in a good, healthy way of moving forward. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think that poses the term that I was using is the sacred observer, and being able to stand back and observe the situation in a very literal way by being out of body or under body, or, in that space, we just kind of align with more of our divine self, more of our sacred selves. And it allows us to pull ourselves out of the experience in a good way to then gain a high, like you're saying, like a higher perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we're talking about why this subject of out-of-body experiences is interesting and how it can help us in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to invite us on a journey outside of our bodies eventually in this episode. But I also want to share an instance or two of out-of-body experiences that I've had, just to kind of illustrate the point further that this is possible, that this is beneficial, that potentially anyone can access this as a tool, as a technique to like right their mind or prepare our body, heart, mind, soul, and spirit to be in divine alignment.
Yeah, I really like that. And I was just thinking about that as you were saying this, like being out of body can be like, for me, it kind of feels like it, being out of body actually feels like the safety of maybe even being, let's say, in like our bathtub. It's like a spiritual bath by being able to connect with divinity in that level.
I see what you're saying, because it's like an immersion or like a surrender to a flow outside of our knowing of our flesh and bone,
Yeah, I think it's the emotion that we experience when we're in an embodied state, which is generally, don't get me wrong, don't get us wrong, and being embodied really allows us to move along the healing experience. If we're feeling, we're healing, but being able to use this as a tool to become one with those levels of consciousness that are at a high level and not connected to the body and out of bodied, it really allows us to detach temporarily from those emotions and benefit from that moment of a higher perspective.
Yeah, and detached is a good way of saying it, and also neutral. It's being in the heightened level of awareness is like being in a non-judgmental, non-seeking, just a radically accepting point of view, like as if all of this is under the watchful care of a benevolent force who loves us. It's like as if all of this is happening in our body to help us to survive and thrive and flourish. In my first out-of-body experience, I vividly remember that exact gift of recognizing that I was above the space in my conscious awareness, and below I could perceive my health and well-being in my body. My conscious awareness was above it, and it was aware that I wasn't breathing my body. My body was breathing itself. That's a really big truth. Just like my heart is beating itself without me needing to intervene. That shows me some force loves me and wants me to live and survive. Some force is sustaining me even when I'm above my physical body in my conscious awareness. That was a really big gift to see that. And I remember the facilitator, this happened for me in a guided meditation, and I was in a room full of people meditating, and there was a facilitator who was inviting us to go deep into our places of suffering and really look at these various areas of our lives where we're challenged. And, the design was to illuminate these shadows that we were refusing to look at. And then kind of like the ultimate upliftment came when he invited us in our spirits above that state of being in those seats in that room. And there I could see, it was as if the ceiling was invisible and I could see from above our circle. And I was concentrating specifically on myself in that circle. And that's where I found myself in a beautiful state of awe and ease. And I think that is the gift of being home that comes from the recalibrating force of being in that out-of-bodied state. We're then acclimating to this home place, like this paradise state, this state of perfection where spirit is, where God is, where home is. And then we can, just like you're saying, taking a bath, we can almost bathe in that holy light.
Mm-hmm.
In my most recent out-of-body experience, my curiosity led me to wonder what the view is like from below. Because that was fascinating to me, because my lightness, my darkness is all a part of who I am, and all of it is just an extension of the love I am. All of it is just ready for me to embrace and accept as part of my whole being. And so with these swirling thoughts, I ventured down. And when I looked up at myself and my circle and the divine orchestration and the event that was happening, it was the exactly same view. The sensation I was feeling is just neutrality. I didn't have judgment about it. I just had a gentle, soft gaze at everything, and I was just observing. And I was feeling peaceful. I was feeling accepting, totally accepting of the situation from above and below. But I did approach the lower angle view with a little bit of apprehension and a little bit of fear, because I have done a lot of shadow work. And I've observed some scary things about myself that needed my attention and needed my healing. But I found it fantastic that it was the same. It seems to be softening some fears that I had about my shadow self. Does my darkness not have the ability to be loved? Are my scary thoughts just wreaking havoc, or do they have a purpose? The way I see it, Creator makes no mistakes. If I'm having a scary thought, it might be a protective mechanism. This might be love extending itself to protect me and safeguard me and show me love in all the different ways. All the different parts of myself, even the hardest parts, are there for a reason, and they deserve my attention and they deserve my acceptance. So I'm learning that high state of mind, that out-of-body viewpoint is valuable no matter what viewpoint we're looking at it. I haven't even unpacked what that means to visualize this from two different angles, but I think of it, like my Heavenly Father and my Earth Mother, to be able to look at ourselves with the grace of God or the divine from outside of ourselves and see as almost as if we're seeing ourselves as God sees us. That's what it felt like. I just want to smudge myself here because I was almost assuming that I knew what it's like to see through the eyes of God, and I just don't know that. That's something that I have to humble myself and recognize. I don't know how God sees me.
I think it's a safe comment to say that maybe that's how, because it's a possibility. And you wouldn't have that inspiration to say that if it wasn't a possibility.
In my imagination, God sees us with eyes of love.
Mm-hmm.
God sees us with eyes of
Healed.
acceptance.
Yeah, whole,
Yeah. Whole, yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Heal and whole and in our most authentic. But I think if it's coming in as a thought or a feeling, you may not feel comfortable stating the absoluteness of it, but we can definitely say maybe or possibility, or I feel this may be possible for sure. I think that's the biggest thing that we struggle with around this relationship with God and divinity and creator and source, and that God inside ourselves is, we do have to have an open, humble heart, but we also have to remember, our gifts and our magnificence too. The God that I know thinks I'm magnificent and powerful and wants me to shine and rise and.
Yeah, there's a good reason why they say we're made in God's likeness.
Yeah.
And it's probably not because we look like God, but maybe we can see like God.
Yeah. I see so much beauty in you. I see so much divinity in you. Sometimes I feel we may be able to see the divinity in others more than we see it in ourselves. Sometimes, some situations.
Yeah, an example of that is in you, I witness you seeing an invisible field of the people that you're working with. If to me it's invisible, but you see pain points that can be addressed, that it's almost like you see a purity in who someone is, and then you can reveal whatever is impure that's attaching itself to that purity, and then remove it. You're clearing imperfections because you know how to see the purity in a spirit.
Right, like the basis of all of us, our bones, our structures, our blueprint is whole and healed always, and we just happen to see, you said impurities, but just anything that's covering that light, anything that's dimming that light, and sometimes I see it, and sometimes I ask for assistance from that soul. Sometimes I can see and I don't have the knowing or understanding of what I'm looking at, in this eye, and I'll say, okay, well, what do you need? You tell me what you need. Where do we need to go? And I just, let the soul tell me, because and that's a really good way to make sure I'm not working through my own lens of what I feel needs to happen, where I want to work through the lens of the soul, the lens of the person in charge,
I think I heard you say you're seeing through a lens of love. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly the goal. Whether we're going outside of ourselves to see ourselves from above and below, or we're closing our eyes and looking inward, when with our third eye, we're able to, see with a lens of love. We're able to see the truth that love is the origin of every single thing that exists. We're able to see that outside of all that facade of that person right there with all that baggage and weight is a pure love. And there's no sin, there's no wrong there, there's just perfection there. And then it just might be cluttered with some extra weight that can be lifted.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, like all of that extra weight that we desire to be lifted and we move towards healing, I mean, we have gratitude for all of it, because without that being there, the soul wouldn't go through the journey that it was anticipating. And, without each individual journeys happening and processing these energies, we wouldn't have this massive soul evolution that we're going through. So this is just like kind of to circle back around from the very beginning. all of that happens, we can see, the glory in all of it, being able to see from that higher perspective that, even what may look like shadow is really just reflecting the light in a lot of ways, just giving us a space to put light into.
Yeah. What does it look like to look through the lens of love, to see through the lens of love? For me, it's three things that come to mind that are just burning on my heart because they've been in our field over the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Attention. Where are we putting our attention in the present moment? What is our intention? Where do we want to be? And as we are choosing the path that we want, what are we attending to? What are we attentive of? Where does our attention show us we are when we call in that intention? And then third, what is our orientation? That's like the lens of love, focusing on a certain object of interest. We're orienting toward potentially what lights us up or what serves rather than what is distracting. Maybe a thought of the past or the future might be distracting us from the holy moment we're trying to create with our intention. And like we keep talking about, our circumstances, the other people in our field, the other energies influence, they co-create the space that we're in. So that's where we have to be attentive. We have to pay attention to the ways these other forces are affecting our intended state of being in. And, we can sometimes shift the scene by jumping to a different timeline or looking through another lens or refocusing, reorienting with our attention in the moment to a place that serves us. Hopefully it's the place that we intend. So looking through a lens of love, wow, that's a sweet way to say it. We don't have to go far. We don't have to go outside of our bodies. We don't have to perform miracles to be able to see with a lens of love. We can simply close our eyes and bring ourselves some love. We can shower ourselves with love by seeing ourselves as the pure, holy beings that we're created to be.
Yeah, for sure.
So I would like you, Audrey, to check in and offer any kind of guidance or preparation for someone to have an experience of seeing through a lens of love, whether that be an out-of-body experience or an inward journey of like self-knowing and self-mastery. How would you suggest preparing our conscious awareness to be able to grasp that or see through that lens?
I think it's a really good place to start, to really go in before we go in a lot of ways, because it just takes that time to just checking in with self and just, almost like kind of having a commune with yourself and just kind of letting hey, I'd really like to go in. I'd really like to have an experience here. I'd really like to be moved in this way. And I'm open to receiving information from a really high perspective of my own consciousness. And I know I'm capable and I'm open to receiving that. So it's kind of like setting the tone through intention and putting my intention out there of wanting to receive support or guidance or wisdom, and that I know that I'm capable of doing so, and just feeling really good about that intention is a really good place to start, I think. Sometimes I think that those states of consciousness are more easily obtained with water. I've seen this tactic used by many people doing anything from astral projection to just straight meditation. So you might find that in the bathtub or where you can be floating is a really great way to sharpen that skill. Or maybe as a conscious aware predecessor to having an experience like that, if you're finding that you're having problems like calming down or getting quiet, taking a bath is super highly recommended for me anyways. It really calms everything from the inside out. Clears, water is really clearing and supportive. And so that could be another, it's not a required step of preparation, but it could be something that is very soothing and supportive of something like that.
Yeah, and along the lines of what you said, you mentioned astral projection, like as if it was an easily accessible thing, and it actually is. You demonstrated, you taught me that. You said, when we imagine, where did I put those keys? And we position ourselves, we backtrack to a time and place when we last remember holding on to the keys.
Yeah.
That's astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about outside of body experiences and astral projection, we really want it to be an everyday accessible thing for us. That's why we're talking about it in these terms. That's why we're talking about it with such levity, because it really is that accessible to us.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot for a lot of our gifts. You guys, like, we're remarkable. Like, we're pretty awesome. And, what we weren't made for the mundane. We have capability beyond our conscious comprehension. And so a part of me, if I use these terms with such grace and ease, because I know, because I'm on the other side, and I use these things regularly, and I just can't stress enough that you can too.
So with about that much introduction, I would like to invite you on a journey outside of your body. And take it or leave it, this is only an invitation. It'll be a 5-minute guided meditation, and then we'll check in afterwards. My intention is to see through a lens of love. My intention is to see who I am from above in order to know myself, to bring acceptance to myself, to show myself love by knowing the truth of the love that I am. In the beginning, I notice the awareness in my feet. I feel my feet on the earth. I feel the weight of my body pressing against the earth, and I feel the earth holding me from below. I feel the presence of my energy in my shins, my knees, my bones of my legs, my hips. I feel this energy rising in me, rising across my body. Continuing on the upward path along my spine, I rise into my chest. Bringing the energy into my neck, bringing my conscious awareness into my head space, aware of my third eye, aware of my ability to imagine. Creator gave me that gift of creation, that gift of being the little creator I am. And I imagine my energy rising higher still, rising, and here in this present place above my body, I recognize I'm breathing, my body's safe, there's an effortlessness in that safety. There's a freedom in that safety. There's a security in that safety. I feel safely held from all sides, from above and below. I feel whole. I feel full. And in my present awareness outside of my body, I feel peace. I feel light. Light as in not dense, not heavy. I feel light like a feather, lighter than a feather. And now I bring my awareness below. And I see myself from below. And I feel that same peace. I feel that same connection to Source. I feel that state of being loved and being love itself and being lovable and bringing love to myself. In my conscious awareness right now, I do feel like I'm bathing in the holy light, the eternal light. I sense a purification happening in my state of being that I can bring home to my body. I can bring that feeling of home, that feeling of belonging, that feeling of connection to Source back into my body. And now I'm rising into my body, resting in this vessel where my spirit visits, feeling my feet on the ground, feeling my hands, feeling this companion here beside me, feeling safe and sound, feeling deep peace, feeling richness of connection, connection with all that is, and seeing that all that is originated with love. Love is behind it all. Love is in front of it all. Love is above it all. Love is below it all. Love is within it all. Love is outside of it all. Love is beyond it all. Love is all that exists. Would you be willing to add to that?
Feels really good. I mean, the only other thing that I would suggest is we can go focusing our energy into our heart space, illuminating our heart space, space that we identify as the source of our love in our physical body, our emotional body, and our spiritual body.
Now we've demonstrated the value of an out-of-body experience and, welcomed people to experience that firsthand. And I'd love for you to illustrate, help us to visualize some of the other ways we can, play, if play is the right word, or explore this art of, projecting our energy bodies outside of our human bodies in order to heal and be well.
Absolutely. I find it extremely helpful to work around the heart space. I see our heart space as this amazing, beautiful space in our physical body, but not only our physical body, but also our energetic and spiritual body as well. I see it as a place of illumination that we can bring our attention to. I see it as a doorway to an incredibly powerful portal. I see it as a space that we can anchor into in a way that we can illuminate from the inside out. And these are all different facets of being able to strengthen this skill of seeing ourselves as external from the body, or separated in that way, or a different vantage point, a different viewpoint. So it's a really good way to visualize an illumination of this heart space, or ground and anchor into this heart space. It kind of allows us to start to play with the different spatial dynamics of the soul body, physical and energetic body.
And it occurs to me right now, as we've been saying, we're seeing through a lens of love, especially seeing through that heart space or illuminating that heart space. That sounds like the ultimate lens of love, really.
Really, truly. There's something, I can't quote who said this, but I feel like I may have come up with it myself, but I don't know for sure. But I do find that the biggest flex of our humanity is our ability to love. I see the heart space, figuratively and literally, as a chamber of transformation. We can reprogram or transmute anything back to the energy of love. And we can do that through in a physical intention, and bringing energy in through this space as well. So it's just one of the many gifts and perspectives that this space in our body, this transcendent space, offers to us.
Right. And no conversation on the subject of the lens of love would be complete without discussing unconditional love and comprehending that in some way. And so I'd love for you to speak on the way you visualize or comprehend unconditional love.
Okay, thank you. So for me, when I can love from a place and send love to another without expecting any kind of reciprocation, without expecting anything in return, it really allows me to really anchor into love and really just send it out, because I have zero expectation of what's coming back. So there's no requirements. The other person, the other being, the other organization, I require nothing, not even reciprocity. So it allows me to just send that love and just to be in that space. So then in the situation in which something else does come back, and it's not what I expected, or it's not love, or it's not something that I even really wanted to come back, and none of it matters, because that can just be whatever it is, because all I am motivated to do is love, and just be from that place of love, and just have no judgment. And if we can be able to navigate a space using that love without any kind of judgment, it becomes unconditional. That I'm going to love no matter what you give me. You can come at me with whatever and however and whoever and wherever. I am still going to love you. I am still going to send that to you, because that's what feels real and true and appropriate and healthy and healing. So that's unconditional love, that I'm going to love you no matter what the situation is, no matter what I'm experiencing on any other level, no matter what you're coming with, I'm coming with love. And that's unconditional. It's non-conditional on any one action, belief, system, existence.
That sounds a lot like neutrality. It sounds a lot like acceptance. It sounds like detachment. It sounds a lot like what I was feeling when I was having an out-of-body experience and seeing myself. I was seeing myself from a place of peace, understanding, compassion, just total acceptance. And that's the way, unconditional love is the way a mama bear loves her cub. It's the way a daddy loves his daughter. When I think about the fact that this entire world, all the trees, the waters of this world, the people are working in harmony almost all the time. And if I can put my attention on these truths that love is all around me every instant, then I can recognize that this great loving force, this incredible force and source of love, is created all that exists, including me, in all my flaws. There's sheer perfection because love created it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I can offer like a tip and a trick to be able to like fall into that space a little bit more effortlessly is with the understanding if we can align with the betterment of all of humanity, if we can align with this space of unity, it makes unconditional love that much easier. The goal is just unity and just loving with the intention to bring unity and harmony and cohesiveness to our reality.
And speaking of that, I'd like to conclude this conversation by bringing up an incredible gem of a truth that is the adamantine particles. And these are the tiniest building blocks in all of existence that I'm aware of. Smaller than the atom, smaller than anything in any density. This adamantine particle is commanded by love. Love creates it. The adamantine particles are the expansion of love. It's the densification of love. It's commanded by love. We, with our willpower, command the adamantine particles to further love as it exists. That's powerful. That's a wonderful, beautiful thought. And I'll just say about that much for now.